All right, guys, Whitney here. Welcome to another episode of the Ash Wealth Show. I do this show every week to help you get started in rental real estate. Whether you've purchased real estate before or you have several rentals under your belt, you are in the right spot. So, maybe you've tried to buy rentals before and just got totally stuck in analysis paralysis and lost your confidence, or you've actually invested in a few rentals before but have hit a ceiling of growth, or you want to get invested in rentals but you're just so overwhelmed by all the information out there and you just haven't gotten started. If this applies to you, then you're in the right space. But before we dive in, I want to introduce myself. I'm Whitney. This is me and my crazy crew. This is the reason why I invest in real estate. I started off as a live-in flipper, house hacker back in 2002. My husband and I met in 2006. In that time, I was able to land several deals and utilize the tax code to continue to build equity tax-free. However, what I didn't have was financial freedom, and that was because I didn't have passive income coming in. And so it took us a few years to really realize that what we were doing to build these large chunks and buckets of money probably was never going to get us to financial independence, let alone financial freedom. So it's when we shifted over to rental real estate that we really started to amplify and build our portfolio quickly. And to date, I am, built quite a sizable portfolio, mostly in the residential real estate space. I've done some self-storage as well, and flipped over several $1 million in real estate, but none of it was possible until I actually built that core portfolio of single-family rentals. And primarily my strategy at the time was doing the buy, rent, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat model, or known as the BRRRR model. It's when I actually built that core portfolio. Think of it as the foundation of a pyramid, or if you're looking at an iceberg, or all that ice under the water, like that foundation is what allowed us to scale quickly and build massive wealth and cash flow. And we did this all while being parents, okay? Working full time and taking care of other family members. So I talk to several investors on a weekly basis, and so many times, there's a limiting belief that people tell themselves they could never do what I've done. Totally not true. Absolutely not true. So let's start kind of picking through, some tactics. And today, the core foundation, what makes what I'm going to share in this presentation so different? Well, if you come to any of the presentations, or if you look at the replays, it's really what I'm sharing is what I've learned over 18 years of real estate investing. And there's 3 core tactics that you have to understand in order to be successful in building a business, let alone a real estate business. 1, you have to have a financial roadmap, okay? An investing roadmap. If you don't have a roadmap, if you don't know where you're going, okay, where you're aiming towards, any path will get you there. You will be shiny object syndrome all over the place. You won't be able to invest confidently. You won't know how to underwrite the deals because you won't know what will fit in your portfolio and help you achieve your goals. Number 1, you have to have that roadmap. I see majority of the people that I work with, they're missing this first step. Once you got that roadmap, then you got to put the right systems in place and build out the right team around you. I'm very much about building business that's time leveraged. I've got a family. I still work, probably harder now than I did before because I love it. I have such a passion for it. But you have to have the right team around you to help you get things done, okay? Nobody can possibly know it all or do it all. And then the third thing you need in order to build a rental real estate business or any business is the ability to scale. And that's learning how to use other people's money wisely. And this can be just as simple as learning how to use different types of bank money wisely. But we also can dive into some deeper tactics here. One of what we're going to cover today is refinances. So learning how to use other people's money to scale. You have to have these 3 things in order to build a successful business, or especially a real estate business. And when I learned all these 3 tactics, Okay, 3 pillars, I should say, to my investing. My results are I now have 100% choice in my time. Yes, I said I work so hard, and I do, but I choose to work that hard. I choose to work hard. I choose to play hard. All right. And I have 100% choice on how I do that. So let's dive into today's secret that we're going to cover. And that is, what are the 3 keys to surviving a refinance, especially if it's a BRRRR refinance? Okay. So let's take a look and understand, like, why would we, what is a refinance? A refinance is when we have a property that has increased in value, there's more equity trapped in the property, and we want to pull that equity out. All right. Now, or we have poor terms on the property, maybe a high interest rate or something like that, and we wanted to refinance out to get better terms. Okay. But why would you even do the refinance in the first place? Primarily, I like refinances to remove that equity from the property, as long as you have an idea that you're going to put that equity to higher and better use. I see a lot of people these days with the interest rates being so low, doing refinances, pulling the equity out of their property, and then it just sits in the bank account and they don't have a plan to move forward. Okay. That helps us, but it doesn't actually really help us build wealth. Okay. The other reason why we want to remove equity from a property is, if you think about it, equity in a property is 100% at risk of the market and can go down. And because it's trapped in the property, it's earning you a 0% rate of return. Okay. The only way that equity would actually earn you a rate of return is if you paid off the property entirely. And then your rate of return would only be the savings of the interest rate that you were paying on the property for your loan. Okay, so the whys, we want to remove the equity to put it to a higher and better use, help us propel our wealth build, and to get it out of the risk of any sort of market, volatility, should I say. So when should we actually do this? Okay, we shouldn't just pursue a refinance at any old time. We need to make sure that we have a plan. So we want to do the refinance when we have a plan to reinvest and not consume the money. And when I say consume, that you're not going to put it in the bank account and then, all of a sudden, like, you've taken your vacation, bought a new car, maybe a boat or something like that, and then poof, it's gone. You want to make sure that when you refinance out your money, that you have a plan. Okay. That you also want to understand what your plan is, ideally, is to accelerate returns, essentially earning money in 2 places. Okay. When you remove that equity out of property A and go and put it in property B, C, and D, that should be an arbitrage, meaning you're going to make more by investing it in other properties or in other investments than you would have if you left it in property A. Okay. And we also want to do this when we are prepared to create velocity with our money. All right. All right. Now, what makes for a successful refinance? All right. Okay, there are a few key players here that are going to help us be successful in our refinance. Okay, 4 to be exact. 1, you. Okay, you're a key player. 2, the property itself. 3, the appraiser. Okay, and then 4, the bank. Notice only 2 of which you get to impact. The other 2 you could influence. So number 1 and number 2, you can directly impact. Number 3, you're going to influence. Number 4, you're going to influence as well. So let's start diving in. So in order to survive a refinance, you do need to know your numbers in your business plan to remove equity. Okay, I'm going to drive home this fact. Please, when you're thinking of doing a refinance, whether it's on a BRRRR or a primary residence, that you have a business plan for that money, and you know how those refinance numbers are going to impact your current holding, be it a rental or your personal property. Right? You do want to make sure that you line up any lender that you're going to use for a refinance during your initial due diligence on the property. This specifically applies to if you're doing BRRRR investing, where you might purchase a property all in cash or use a hard money or private money lender. Okay. You, at that point in time in your initial purchase, you want to line up the lender who's going to do the refinance as well. You're going to want to know those terms. Okay. You're going to want to have their input. I see investors make mistakes where they will purchase the initial property, they'll do the construction, and then they get to the end of the construction period and they're like, okay, time for the refinance, and then they can't do it because for whatever reason, they, either they don't qualify for it or the property doesn't qualify for it. So line up that takeout lending, or refinance lending during your initial purchase due diligence. Number 3, have a great FICO score. Okay, we'll talk about exactly how to maintain your FICO score here in a little bit, and make sure that you have reserves. Okay, you have to have adequate reserves to, close a loan. So essentially, you don't want to burn through all your cash and then expect to be able to do a successful refinance. So here are some tactics, some don'ts. When you're going through a refinance, don't change jobs, reduce your hours, or quit your job. Okay, you are, for the most part, if your job's stable, are in control of that. Okay, now we all know that life can throw us curveballs. Okay, I'm not talking about those curveballs. I'm just saying, don't put the cart in front of the horse and start executing on these life wishes of changing your job, reducing your hours, or just like quitting entirely until you get the refinance done. Also, don't make any major purchases while you're trying to qualify for a refinance or actually during the refinance, especially if they're going to affect your DTI score. Going out and buying cars, especially using lending, running up credit card bills, large major purchases that would throw off your DTI. Okay. Also, don't purchase more properties or refinance more properties while you're executing a refinance. Okay, this is super hard, especially when you have deals. If you have a very strong deal flow, it can be difficult to kind of sit on the sidelines while you get a refinance done. That's why you want to make sure your takeout lender can get the refinance done quickly, and you have other ways of picking up property without taking out a loan. Those are a couple ways you can get around number 3. All right, now let's talk about the property, right? We talked about some key things that you can do to qualify for the refinance loan. Now let's talk about the property. What can you do with the property? What can you control there to help you qualify? This goes back, a lot of these things go back to the initial purchase, right? You want to qualify for a refinance on that property, be able to pull out equity either in the first few months or even like 10, 15, 20 years later. You want to make sure you're buying property in a great area that a lender wants to lend in. Okay, very important. All right, location, location, location. It's an immutable law of real estate. Okay, this is where I see some investors investing in areas, and they're hoping that the area turns around in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then that they can pull their cash out of their property. Hope's not a strategy, right? I'm very aggressive in building my portfolio, but I'm very conservative on the way I build it, okay? Hope is not a strategy. Be sure the area that you're buying in and that the lender wants to lend there. Again, know your numbers. You're going to see this come up constantly. When you're initially purchasing the property, you need to know with 99.9% certainty what's your after repair value on the property. What are the rents? You need to stress test these as well. What happens? Can you actually still execute a refinance if the after repair value comes in 10% under, or you have to rent during the winter and you have to discount your rents $75 just to stay competitive? Can the business plan still work? Okay, so know your numbers and stress test them. Okay, also know your tax rate, right? This is another little kind of sneaky thing that can happen. This differs jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but a lot of times, especially if you're purchasing a property from a previous homeowner, that homeowner, if it's an owner-occupied property, had what we call a homestead exemption on their property, meaning their tax rate is potentially 50 to 70% less than what you will be paying as an investor on that property. Okay, so account for that in your initial underwriting. Understand what tax bill you're seeing at that initial purchase. Is that real, or is that the homestead exemption that's still on that property? Okay, that's a sneaky thing. And that how that can keep you from getting a refinance is if you're going through the refinance period and they determine that your expenses are too high, like your tax rate, you will not be able to close on the refinance. All right, so it can impact you. Also, know your insurance rate, right? And insurance rates, generally you will know that during the due diligence period. Okay. Also understand, our insurance rates, you can ask your carrier, are they expected to go up in the short term, like 1 to 5 years? A lot of times insurance carriers already know expected rate hikes in that area. So have an open conversation with them. And again, that's going to impact the expenses on the property that the bank requires. They're going to require that they underwrite the taxes and the insurance on the property. All right. Another expense you're going to want to know is if you have an HOA. Okay, again, that's also underwritten at the property. I've seen investors get surprised. They close on a property and they're all excited and they go through a refinance and they're like, wait a second, there was an HOA on this? We should have found that out in the original titling process, but yeah, understand if there's a homeowners association and what kind of assessments that homeowner association does. Again, that can inflate your expenses, and that's totally within your control to figure out. All right. And then also on the property, you want to make sure that you're rehabbing the property to market competition standards. All right. So, when you're putting together your construction bid on a BRRRR refinance, you want to understand, are you being competitive in the market? If every house in the market has granite countertops and you put in Formica, your property is going to get valued less, right? If all the properties, that your competition properties have a garage and you have a carport, you're going to get less for your after repair value on the property. If all the properties are 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and yours is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath property, obviously you're going to get a little bit lower, but you might actually get dinged further. So understand what the competition is in that market and rehab accordingly. All right. Moving on, another key player in the refinance is the appraiser, okay? And also the appraiser, we can only influence them, we cannot control them. So ways that we can mitigate this is that you wanna get what we call when you're going to purchase the property, you wanna understand what the value of the property is in its current condition. And then if you're gonna do any sort of rehab to the property, you wanna understand what the value of the property is going to be after the construction, right? So we call the first type of appraisal as is, and the second type of appraisal subject to, all right? It is worth its weight in gold. It costs a couple $100 more to do those two types of appraisals together, but it's worth its weight in gold, again, to reaffirm what your after repair value could be for the expected construction you're going to do, all right? Now, if you can, it's also ideal to use the same appraiser who did the as-is appraisal for the subject to, or for the refinance, okay? Now, why? Because it's really hard to send an appraiser out. They give you as-is and a subject to value before you close on the property. You go through construction, you see the same guy back out, you did everything on your construction list, and then they give you a lower value. That means that they didn't know what they were doing to begin with, okay? So it's worth its weight in gold to get into a program like that if you're gonna be doing a ton of BRRRR refinancing. And really, you can only access that type of program if you're doing commercial lending. Conventional lending, it has to be completely third party. And you don't get to send the same appraiser back out, all right? When you're going through the appraisal process, again, remember, you can't control the appraiser. It's actually it's illegal to do that. But we can, again, help put all the information in front of them so they can make a better decision. When we are doing our appraisals, we will actually prepare a packet of before, okay, what did the property look like whenever we closed on the property? And then after, what does it look like now? Okay, so they can actually see the value that we've driven in the property. We'll also put together a package of comps that were used to purchase the property and at the potential comps in the area that are available for at the time they refinance. We'll list out the bedrooms, the bath, the square footage, outbuildings. We will not put any price tag on those comps. Okay, again, that when you start putting pricing into your before and after package, now the appraiser probably is going to throw that whole thing out. We just list out the addresses, map them out where they are, like in relation to the subject property, list out the bedrooms, baths, and stuff like that. That's it. Okay. And hopefully this helps the appraiser to do their job more effectively. Remember, they are going, 90 to nothing to try to get all these appraisals done. Okay, we're just trying to help them a little bit to do their job. That's it. Not influence them on the actual value of the house. Now, there will be times that the refinance appraisal might come in low, and you're not done. You could politely contest the appraisal with your bank if you need to. Okay. Now, depending on what type of lending you use, you might not have much recourse, but you could, if the appraisal came in, significantly below the value that you thought that it was going to come in at, you could go back to the bank and actually cite the errors in the report. Okay. Now, if there are no errors in the report, the chances of you actually moving that number significantly are probably 0 to none. But again, appraisers sometimes, believe it or not, can miss a bedroom. They can miss bathrooms. They can miss square feet. They could miss, some sort of aspect on the subject property. Okay, if you have errors, notate those. Okay, provide substantiation for that, especially if you changed the configuration of the property, took it from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath to a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, or a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, help them understand, that there was value driven there. But again, the key word here is politely, because both the appraiser and the bank are trying to help you close the loan. All right, they're not an enemy here. Now, sometimes that just doesn't work. All right, and we'll talk about that here in a second. All right, now we've got the bank. The bank is a player too in our refinance, and there's a lot of things that we can do here to ensure success. Okay, one is understand just at the very beginning, what type of refinance do you want to do? Okay, what are your pros and cons of the different types of lending that you could use, conventional versus commercial? All right. For me, initially building out my portfolio, I was so attached to the low rates of conventional loans. And then when I did my first commercial loan and realized how simple and streamlined it was, I'm like, ooh, I'm never going back to conventional. Okay, but understand the pros and cons of each. All right. We talked about it. If you get a low appraisal, work with the bank to contest. Remember, the bank wants to loan you money. All right. And the appraisal helps them protect their downside as well as you. All right. But they are actually on your side to help you get that done. All right. Now, what happens if you can't, again, that you can test the appraisal and the appraiser doesn't mean the value on the property? You've got a couple choices. One, you can wait out the seasoning period with the same bank. Maybe they say, well, hey, we can refinance again in 3 months or 6 months. Okay. You can do that. Or you can actually switch lenders and start the process all over. Okay, a little painful. Or you can actually switch lending strategies. Say like you were in the conventional strategies, you can now move to commercial, right? You have options to get the refinance done, all right? Just because you're told no, it just means not now. And how can we even get around that and move on with a different entity or lending strategy altogether? All right. So I hope you guys feel like this was time well spent. Again, we went over the key players on how to survive a refinance, what you can do to impact that. If you are interested in hearing more and understanding how I can help you with this, I guess that's my main question. If you want help building your rental real estate portfolio, stay here. I've got a solution for you that I'd love to talk to you about. If you're just here to, get a couple, pieces of knowledge under the belt and just education only, thanks so much for investing your time today. But if you want to learn more, hang out here. What we do here at Ash Wealth is that we have the Investor Accelerator program. And we have this program comes in a couple different flavors. We've got our annual or year-long mastermind. And then also for those people who want to work in a one-on-one capacity, we also have a VIP program as well. But let's just talk about the base, who this program's for. So the Investor Accelerator is for anybody starting out in real estate, learning, wanting to get that first deal, or you've got a handful of deals under your belt and you're just stymied and you don't understand how to scale that portfolio. If those situations apply to you, you're in the right place. So how I like helping people envision what the Investor Accelerator is, it's like a four-legged table, right? If you have a big long table, 4 legs, if you chop off any of the legs, it becomes unstable or it falls over. Okay, the accelerator has all these components to it, again, to help you succeed. Okay, number 1, we've got the educational component. Okay, we have our lifetime access to the Investor Accelerator course. All right, but education is only one part of the puzzle. Okay, you guys are here, building out your knowledge base. It's what you do with it and the systems and the people that you put around it and the support that you get that will actually get you success. It's not the education. We can watch podcasts and read books and take courses all day long, but you gotta have the plan. You gotta know where you're at, where you're going, and how you're gonna execute that plan. All right, so we help you put together your lean business strategy plan. Next, we will help you build out your systems and your team around you to help you succeed. I share with you everything that I've done, my exact systems checklist, everything that I have used to build my real estate portfolio goes into this Investor Accelerator. I even share my deal finders, all my ancillary providers, again, help you fast track to success, because being a real estate investor isn't about setting up LLCs or opening bank accounts or just analyzing deals. It's about putting in offers, closing on them, and getting to the next deal. And then the last leg of the puzzle is that support and scale. Like, how do you do that? How do you actually grow a business to where it's going to give you the financial independence that you desire and the time freedom that you desire? I got into real estate to have both of those things, not just the money, okay? I got into it to get my time back as well as provide for my family. So with the accelerator, we do 2 calls a month, so 26 calls during the year, or every other week, I should say. So we do a monthly business call, okay, where we're focused on your business. Then we do an expert session to help you rapidly grow your net worth, build your investing knowledge. And then, we have also a community for support, okay, online community, like a Slack community that you can go in and ask questions. I'm there, other investors are there. You get real-time answers to knowledge or answers to your question. Some people love that asynchronous like interaction through a forum. Other people want to hop on a weekly call with me to get their questions answered. Both options are available to you. But just imagine, with that type of education, planning, and systems and support, just think about it. How far could you scale, right? So if you are ready to get started, you feel like this is a good option for you, let's hop on the phone, go over to ashwealth.com/apply, and let's hop on the phone and make sure that this is a good solution for you. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today and investing your time. And if you got any questions, let me know. Jump over to the chat box.